Welcome to the section on attaching and detaching databases. For starters, why do we need this section, right? We know that SQLite 3 allows you to have a huge number of tables inside a database. So why do we need this? This feature comes into play for two important use cases. The first one is you want to combine multiple sources of data to produce a report. So let's assume for a moment that we are working in a school's organization, right? Assume that you are the teacher and I am an administrator who owns the student contact information, insurance details, and so on. And you have your own application that writes or that manages the student test scores. When we want to create a report, including all our data, then we can club those seamlessly by attaching both our databases and producing a final result database if you want. Another example is, let's assume for a moment that you are writing a dictionary application for English. Popular sources of English language words are dictionary.com, Cambridge Dictionary, of course we have Oxford, and let's pick another one, call it American English Dictionary. Words will have different levels of data, examples, and the pronunciations. You can now create individual applications based on these databases and finally pull them in to create one big source of truth for your application. And finally, the last use case is if you have temporary database and you want to copy things over to one of your persistent databases, then again you need to attach or detach databases if it's not your main database. Let's look at these in detail with a bunch of examples. Here's a demo. We start off with opening just a school DB and do a select statement from the student. We have ID, name, and age. This was one of the earliest databases that we were using for understanding the very basics of SQLite 3. Now let's go ahead and perform what is called as an attach of an additional database. We encountered this when we created the select demo. Keep in mind that if this file exists, then it will be attached as is. If it doesn't exist, then a brand new file will be created. So this is the path to the file, and as this name will be the name in the database name that will show up. So if you have, once you execute .databases now, you'll see that you have a main database that corresponds to school DB. You open that first, and of course since we have attached the database with name scores DB, this one shows up as well. The output of the .tables command is as follows. As far as the main database is concerned, it has just one table, student. It appears without any prefix. For rest of any attached databases, including this one, ScoresDB, each of them will have a ScoresDB dot prefix. As far as addressing tables is concerned, if you have the table name unique across all these tables, then you don't have to specify the prefix. That is, you can have either select star from insurance, or you can type it as select star from scoresdb.insurance. Both will produce identical results. In case where there is ambiguity, if you leave the table out, that is if you leave the database prefix out, then the main DB will be referenced. If not, you'll have to be explicit while you mention the table name. For example, this is how you get the details out from the ScoresDB table. Select star from this. To confirm that this is actually different from the content present in the main database, select star from student. This is how they are different, and here is how you address them differently. Now that you know how to basically attach a database, you can also go ahead and detach the database by using detach database and then ScoresDB. Now when you look up the tables, you'll see that only the tables in the main database are listed. To confirm that the other database is indeed gone, you can use .databases to see that there is only main database and that the ScoresDB is no longer present. Now that you know how to integrate and remove databases on the fly, that is attach and detach them on the fly. You can run your select queries or anything that you want based on these tables. Here's the state so far. We have two databases. One is the main database, which corresponds to school DB, and here's another one, score DB, which is associated with select demo.db. We're familiar up to now. Turns out there is one more DB that can be created on the fly. What is that? It's called as a temporary database. It houses all the temporary tables. Let's see how to create a temporary table. As an example, you can just call create temp table, say T1, and let's have it just with one field, integer. Now let's do a dot databases. You'll see that there are three databases listed: main, temp, and score DB. Temp doesn't have any file handle associated with it because it's deleted upon you quitting the connection, and it doesn't have any sort of a persistent store. You can definitely go ahead and populate the temporary table with rows like this. Insert into T1 values, say 1, 2, 3, and of course you can have even a select statement run on it. Now one thing that you notice is once I quit this connection and then reopen this for list databases, all attached databases will automatically be detached upon closing the connection, and of course your temp DB will cease to exist. So you'll be left with just one database, that is the main database. So to recap, attaching a database is done using attached database. Once a database is attached, it is customary to address a table with dbname.tablename format, where db name corresponds to the database name that you provided, like this one, and the table name corresponds to the underlying table. Of course, if you have any doubt, you can always type tables, and for now it's just one. Let's just go ahead and do this. Here is the unambiguous way of accessing tables. And then the next one, the schema names main and temp refer to the main database and temporary database. They cannot be attached or detached, as one might expect. And finally, the attached names should be unique throughout a connection. What this means is you cannot afford to attach another database with the same name, score DB. This again would match any regular expectations. This brings us to the end of attaching and detaching databases.